Hello OET people, do you know how to structure up your letter like that? It's really important on test day that you understand where the date goes, how to create the address section, the sign off, etc. Because there are large parts of the letter that are formulaic, that is, you can just memorize how it's structured up. There are other parts of the letter which are not formulaic and you must be flexible, and these are the body paragraphs. But you can save yourself a lot of time by knowing how to structure your letter, and that's what we're going to do in this lesson here. OET writing letter structure. Okay, so what we're looking at here are the criteria. That is, it's kind of like the checklist that the examiners use to mark your letter. And if we look closely at these criteria, there is a specific criterion there under organization and layout at the band 7 level, which is the highest band you can get, that says organization and paragraphing are appropriate, logical, and clear. Key information is highlighted and subsections are well organized. Document is well laid out. So if you just want to immediately get a good score for that particular criterion, you need to know how to structure your letter. Now, the letter that we're going to use in this video as an example is one from e2language.com, which in fact, or the model letter, you can download from the description below. Let's take a look at it. So this is a perfect model letter, well, as perfect as they get. Okay, so if we look more closely at this letter, you can see certain sections. And the sections will pretty much always be like this. I mean, the date, for example, can change places, but this is the structure that you should use. So right at the top, we have the date, and that date will be the date of your exam. This will not be the date of the transfer of the patient or the discharge of the patient, etc. Again, it will be the date of the exam. Below that, we have the address. This includes the recipient's name, their title, i.e. physiotherapist, and the address of their clinic or the hospital, etc. Below that, you can see Dear Miss Pasquale. And below that, you can see regarding patient's name and patient's age. Again, this is formulaic. This is part of the template which you can memorize. Okay, in the next section, you hit purpose and purpose expanded. And while this always goes here, that is, it's part of the structure, this particular sentence or the particular paragraph, you need to be flexible. So while you can remember the structure of this, you need to be flexible in the way that you write it because it's according to the case notes and you can't memorize those, obviously. Okay, below that you have what I call other paragraphs, of which you might have 1 or 2 or 3 or maybe a single sentence paragraph. Again, this is where you need to be entirely flexible and write according to the case notes on test day. At the bottom, there are sort of 2 sections. There's the request, which is critical. It should always be the last sentence or the last part of the paragraph. And here, again, this is not something you can memorize because you need to fully understand the case notes in order to write the request. And then finally, you have some memorized formulaic language such as, if you have any queries, please feel free to contact me. Yours sincerely, comma, nurse, doctor, physio, whatever. Okay, so that is the structure that you should use on test day, okay? I went through that very quickly, and now what I want to do is actually go through it in more detail so you're very clear on this structure. And again, this is something that you take with you into the exam, hidden in your mind. It's a little secret. Okay, now, what's important here is that this particular model letter that we're looking at and the structure is based on these case notes. And if you want these case notes, you can go to e2language.com and sign up for free. These are nursing case notes, but we also have a free set of medicine case notes as well, which also include the model letter. So check it out on e2language.com. Okay, let's talk about where you write the date because this confuses people. Let's check it out. So again, the date that you write at the top of the letter or below the address, either place does not matter. This will be the date of the exam. So if you're taking the exam on the 12th of the 8th, 2020, or the 1st of February, 2021, that's the date that you write. Now, there will be other dates that will be included in the letter, like the date that the patient had his fall or the date that the patient will be transferred, etc. These are different dates, okay? They will come from the case notes. So again, the date you write right at the top or below the address is the date that you take the exam, you as the candidate. Okay, let's look at the next part. So this is the address. And here it says Ms. Loretta Pasquale, physiotherapist, Templestowe District Medical Clinic, 43 Anderson Street, Templestowe. This is taken directly from the writing task, including the recipient's name, their title, and the precise address of their clinic or their hospital or whatever it is. You should not screw up. Okay, this you take directly from the task and write it precisely, exactly as it is written in the task on your test paper on test day, okay? So please don't spell the recipient's name wrong. Don't spell the hospital's name wrong. Make sure if it's got a capital letter in the task, you use a capital letter in the address in your letter. Cool? The next section is the dear and re. So dear, title, and family or surname. So I'm not saying dear Ms. Loretta, okay? I'm saying dear Ms. Pasquale. So I'm using her family name or her surname there. And the title, again, was taken directly from the task. Okay, below that I have the R-E full colon, Mr. George Chien, comma, 54 years old, or aged 54, or even just 54 would be fine. Now, where did I get this information from? Because the patient's name was not written in the task. The patient's name is written right at the top of the case notes, and his or her age will be written there as well as their title. So I'm taking that part from the top of the case notes, and I'm able to construct my dear and my re perfectly. So far, I have not been creative at all with my letter. I'm basically just copying stuff from the case notes or the task, writing it into the letter, and that's simple, and you can do that. Okay, so in this section of the letter, which we will call the letter body, this is where you actually get creative, and this is where you need to be critical in that you're reading the case notes, you're using the relevant case notes, you're categorizing the case notes into sentences and into thematic paragraphs, and you're actually writing a relevant letter. All right, so this letter body kind of looks a bit scary at the moment because it's quite large. Let's break it down into its various sections. And again, there is nothing here that you can memorize in terms of content before test day. Everything you write in the body of the letter has to come from the case notes on test day, right? So if you're thinking to yourself that the first paragraph will be the medical history and the second paragraph must be the social, that's completely wrong, okay? You're writing according to the task and the case notes that are given to you on test day. You must be flexible. Let's take a closer look at it. So this part of the letter will always be the purpose statement. How you write the purpose statement does have a sort of semi-structure here. This one, for example, says, Mr. Chien requires your professional assistance for his ongoing difficulties with mobility following recent surgery. So this purpose statement really is the main medical issue explained. What does it say here? His mobility following recent surgery. And it also briefly mentions the request, the thing that you want the recipient to do. Now, we'll talk further about the request paragraph at the bottom of the letter, but here in the purpose, you briefly mention that request, which says he requires your professional assistance. The next section is what we call the purpose expanded. So this takes the purpose statement and extrapolates it or expands upon it or fleshes it out with key details about the main medical issue that was mentioned in the purpose statement. This one says, Mr. Chien was admitted to St. Andrew's Hospital 2 days ago with swelling and fluid buildup in his right knee, the result of a total knee replacement, which he underwent on this particular date due to osteoarthritis. The resulting pain and swelling have severely limited his mobility. Consequently, his self-care activities have been significantly compromised. So what we're seeing here is the purpose statement then gets expanded upon in that purpose expanded section. And again, there's nothing you can memorize here except that you need to expand upon the purpose statement. That's all. Again, it depends entirely on the case notes and the task, whatever the main medical issue is, whether that patient knows the doctor, the referral doctor or not, etc. There's a number of considerations there. Let's look at the next part. Okay, so what we're looking at here are what I call other paragraphs. Okay, there's no real set theme to these. We've looked at the purpose statement and the purpose expanded, but then what we're looking at here are the secondary or possibly tertiary important parts of the case notes that we've then put into paragraphs. So what I'm saying here is that there's going to be a main medical issue, which we've mentioned in the purpose and expanded upon in the purpose expanded. Then we need to also include some other information from the case notes, which might not be so relevant to that main medical issue. They may be secondary issues, or maybe even a tertiary issue, a third issue that we're putting into that other paragraph. It might not be an issue, it might be medications, it might be something about his social history which is relevant, or that his son-in-law is coming to pick him up on Thursday afternoon. Who knows? It depends on the case notes, but it's not going to be included in that purpose, okay? So these particular paragraphs, you really do need to be flexible and you'll write them out according to the case notes. Okay, what we're looking at here is the request, and this goes pretty much right at the bottom of the body of the letter, just before the "if you have any queries, please feel free to contact me," or whatever statement you write there. So this really is the last of the creative writing that you do. Now, I mentioned that right at the start in the purpose statement, we very briefly mentioned the request, right? And then right down here is the final paragraph or sentence. This is where we really expand upon that request from the case notes. Make sure we include all of the important bits of information, okay? Okay, and right at the bottom, you have some formulaic sentences which you can just memorize with you and bring into the exam, such as, "If you have any queries, please feel free to contact me. Yours sincerely, comma, nurse, doctor, physio," whatever it is. Okay, so that's it. And what you can see there is that large parts of the letter there's a memorized structure there, okay? It's almost like a template. Certain aspects of the letter are a template structure. Some are definitely, they are not, okay? And you must write according to the case notes. Let's just check it out one more time. So we have the date that goes right at the top or below the address. That is the date of your exam. Then you have the address, which is taken directly from the task. We have the "Dear Ms. Doctor" or "Mr. Doctor" or whatever. We have the patient's name and the patient's age taken straight from the top of the case notes. That is all pretty much memorized stuff, or at least the structure is, right? You know how to write that and where to get it from. Then you move into the purpose and then you expand upon the purpose. You may write 1, 2, or 3 additional paragraphs. Let's call them other paragraphs, which will be about the secondary or tertiary medical issues or some other critical information. Then you'll move into the request. This is the final bit of writing that you'll do before you then sign off. I should just mention here that the request for this particular letter is short. There was just a short little request. Sometimes, however, you will be writing quite a long request and it'll be a number of different sentences. That is, you're going to have to ask the recipient to do X, Y, and Z, or Z, as we say in Australia. Cool, but that is basically it. Now, what I have failed to do in this letter is go into detail about how you write the other aspects of the letter, including the purpose, the body paragraphs, etc., the structure of those, the content of those, the genre of those, the style of those, the relevance of those. There's lots more to this letter if you really do want to get a high score. And if that's the case, if you do want to get a high score, check out e2language.com because we will have these amazing criteria videos going up very soon. Plus, there's other stuff on E2, such as the live classes, writing feedback, the mock test. In fact, let's talk about the mock test. So if you haven't yet taken the OET, and you're not sure what score you're going to get, then you should take our mini mock test with feedback. Or if you have taken the OET test before, but you've been unsuccessful and you don't really know why or what went wrong, you should also take our mini mock test with feedback. It's a full computer simulated OET test, and our expert teachers will give you writing feedback, and you'll actually do a one-on-one speaking role play with one of our teachers with feedback, in addition to getting feedback on your listening subtest ABC and reading subtest ABC as well. That is a super useful tool and something that you should do long before test day, because you need to start getting feedback, especially on your writing. Cool. All right, I think that's enough from me. Don't forget, in the description below, we have the model letter that you can feel free to download, but really all the magic happens on e2language.com. Hopefully I'll see you there.